There is a moment, and you already know the one, where everything in your life suddenly stops making sense. The path you were walking disappears. The people you counted on fall back, the plans you made dissolve like smoke in the wind. And in that terrifying silence, in that hollow, echoing stillness where all the noise finally dies down, something ancient stirs inside you, something that was there long before you were born. Something that doesn't have a name in any human language, but that every human being who has ever walked this earth has felt at least once. It is the whisper of destiny. It is the pull of a purpose so enormous, so incomprehensible, that your mind refuses to hold it. And in that moment, in that terrifying, sacred, devastating moment, you don't feel chosen. You feel afraid. You feel alone. You feel like the universe has made some catastrophic mistake. But let me tell you something that no one told you. Something that the ancient teachers knew, that the silent monks carved into stone, that the mystics encrypted into poems and parables so the unready would not understand. The ones who came before you, every single one of them, trained for 50 years. They sharpened their swords. They meditated in caves. They fasted for weeks. They memorized sacred texts. They built empires, toppled thrones, accumulated wisdom that would take a lifetime to comprehend. And when you arrived, not one of them was ready. Not one. And that was never an accident. Chapter 1. Why they trained so long. You have to understand something about the nature of the chosen one that no motivational speech will ever dare to tell you. The world doesn't prepare for ordinary things. Nobody builds a cathedral to house a candle. Nobody forges a legendary sword to cut bread. Nobody trains an army for 50 years to fight a battle they've already won. The preparation, all of it, every decade of it, was not about them becoming stronger. It was about the world becoming worthy of the moment your soul would enter it. Think about that for a second. Every teacher who appeared in your life, even the cruel ones, even the ones who hurt you, even the ones who left, they were being trained to play their role in your story. Every obstacle that was placed before you was being carefully engineered by forces you cannot see and cannot measure. The family you were born into, the circumstances you were handed, the pain you were given as a child before you even had words to describe it, none of it was random. None of it was a mistake. None of it was the universe being careless with your life. It was a curriculum, a brutal, unrelenting, deeply personalized curriculum designed specifically and exclusively for a soul of your particular frequency. And here is what makes the Chosen One's journey unlike any other. The curriculum never looks like preparation while you're in it. It looks like suffering, it looks like failure, it looks like being misunderstood, overlooked, underestimated, and abandoned. It looks like every door closing at the exact moment you needed it most. Fact Chapter 2. The Illusion of the Ordinary Life. Let us talk about the life you almost lived. Because every chosen one has a shadow life, a version of their existence where they said yes to the comfortable thing, where they took the safe road, where they swallowed their gifts to fit into a world that was never designed to contain them. You felt it, didn't you? And that gravitational pull toward the ordinary, the job that would have paid well enough, the relationship that would have been comfortable enough, the city, the routine, the circle of friends who asked nothing extraordinary of you and gave nothing extraordinary in return. There was a version of you that could have chosen that life, and part of you, a very human, very tender part of you, still grieves that version, still mourns the simplicity of a life without this impossible calling. But here is what you must understand. The ordinary life was never truly available to you. You could have stepped into it, yes. You could have put on the costume, learned the lines, played the role, but the universe would have kept sending you disruptions, kept collapsing your comfortable structures, kept introducing chaos into your carefully arranged peace, because peace was never what you were built for. You were built for something that looks from the outside like perpetual turbulence, but feels from the inside, when you finally stop resisting it, like the most profound stillness you have ever known. The chosen one cannot live the ordinary life, not because they are above it, but because they are wired differently at the cellular level of their soul. the ordinary life would have slowly, gently, mercifully killed the thing inside you that the world desperately needs alive. Chapter 3. The Cost of Being Chosen. Nobody talks about this. Everyone loves the glory of the chosen one. Everyone wants to see the moment of triumph, the victory, the ascension. But nobody sits with the cost. And there is a cost. There is always a cost. Being chosen means being separated. It means watching people you love walk down roads you cannot follow. It means sitting in rooms full of people and feeling the loneliness of being the only one who can see what you can see. It means carrying knowledge that has no audience yet, holding visions that have no language yet, feeling callings that have no map yet. The chosen path is not the easy path, it is not the applauded path. In fact, for the longest and most important stretch of it, it is the path that people around you will actively discourage. They will call it delusion, they will call it arrogance. They will dress their fear in the clothing of concern and tell you that you are reaching too high, dreaming too wildly, living too far outside the acceptable boundaries of a reasonable life. And the devastating thing, the thing that makes the chosen one's journey so profoundly difficult, is that these people love you. They are not your enemies, they are your family, your oldest friends, your trusted mentors, and they genuinely believe they are protecting you. But what they are protecting you from is your destiny. What they are guarding you against is your greatness. And you have to find somewhere deep inside yourself, in a place that their well-meaning fear cannot reach, the courage to love them back and still walk away from what they are offering you. That is perhaps the single hardest thing a chosen person will ever do, harder than any external battle, harder than any public failure. The hardest thing is to disappoint the people who love you in service of the truth that lives inside you. Chapter 4. The Signs You Ignored and the Ones You Didn't. There were signs. There were always signs. Looking back now, you can see them with a clarity that almost takes your breath away. The book that fell off the shelf at exactly the right moment. The stranger who said something in passing that rearranged your entire inner world. The dream that kept recurring for years before you finally paid attention to what it was trying to tell you. The inexplicable knowing. That deep, bodily, cellular knowing that something was coming, that you were being prepared for something. That the hardships you were enduring were not punishments but initiations. The ancient traditions understood this. Every culture that has ever existed on this planet developed some version of the initiation ritual. A structured, intentional passage through suffering and uncertainty designed to break the old self open and allow the true self to emerge. The indigenous peoples knew it, the mystery schools of ancient Egypt encoded it, the shamanic traditions of every continent practiced it. The great philosophers described it, the saints and mystics lived it. They all understood what modern culture has forgotten, that the chosen one does not become chosen through comfort, they become chosen through fire. And the fire, all of it, every degree of it, was a sign. The relationship that destroyed you was a sign. The career that collapsed was a sign. The illness that forced you to be still was a sign. The betrayal that left you with nothing but yourself was a sign. Not signs that you were cursed. Not signs that you were unlucky. Signs that you were being stripped of everything that was not essential to who you truly are. Signs that the universe was doing the sacred and violent work of revealing you to yourself. Chapter 5. The Ones Who Came Before. Now let us speak of the ones who trained. Let us speak of the 50 years. Because you need to understand who these people were and what they were doing all that time, and why, with all of that accumulated wisdom, all of that discipline, all of that preparation, they were still not ready when you arrived. The teachers who trained were not ordinary people. They were remarkable people, brilliant, dedicated, spiritually advanced, intellectually formidable. They had meditated through winters and fasted through summers. They had studied the old texts and the new sciences. They had traveled the world's sacred sites and sat at the feet of the greatest minds of their generation. They had earned everything they had. They deserved the recognition they received, and they still weren't ready for you, not because they failed, but because you are not a continuation of what came before. You are a discontinuity. You are a break in the pattern. You are the thing that the pattern was always building toward, but could never actually produce from within itself. Every generation of teachers, every tradition, every school of thought contains within it the seeds of its own completion and its own surpassing. The ones who trained 50 years were not your competition. They were your foundation. They built the platform upon which your moment would stand. Their decades of preparation were not wasted. They were necessary. They were the scaffolding that the universe needed in place before it could lower you into the world. And when you arrived, when you brought with you that thing that none of their training could manufacture, the scaffolding suddenly revealed itself for what it always was, not the building, but the support structure for a building they themselves could never have imagined. Chapter 6. The Anatomy of Your Uniqueness. Here is what the ones who trained for 50 years did not have. They did not have your particular combination of wounds and gifts. They did not have the specific configuration of experiences, painful, beautiful, confusing, transcendent, that made you into precisely the instrument the universe needs for this precise moment in history. Your uniqueness is not arrogance. Your uniqueness is architecture. Think of it this way. A violin and a trumpet are both instruments. A master musician can play both. But there are pieces of music that can only be played on a violin. Not because the trumpet is inferior. It is a magnificent, powerful, irreplaceable instrument, but because the composition requires something that only the violin's particular structure can produce. You are not better than the ones who trained before you. You are differently tuned. You are built for a frequency they were not capable of reaching. Not because they lacked discipline or intelligence or spiritual depth, but because the universe doesn't replicate instruments it has already made. It builds new ones. And you, with your specific history, your specific pain, your specific genius, your specific way of seeing the world, you are an instrument that has never existed before. Which means there are compositions that have never been heard before that are waiting specifically for you to play them. The question is not whether you are capable of playing them. The universe does not build instruments it doesn't intend to use. The question, the only real question, is whether you will stop pretending to be a different instrument because it seems safer or more acceptable or more understandable to the people around you. Chapter 7. The Great Misunderstanding. Here is where most people who feel the call of the chosen one go catastrophically wrong. They think being chosen means being superior. They think it means being exempt from struggle. They think it means that success should come more easily, that doors should open more readily, that the universe should be paying them some kind of special dividend on the investment of their unique purpose. And when the opposite happens, when the struggle intensifies, when the doors slam harder, when the universe seems to be working actively against them, they conclude that they were wrong, that they weren't chosen after all, that they were deluded, that they should shrink back into the smaller life and stop bothering the cosmos with their oversized dreams. This is the great misunderstanding that has silenced more chosen ones than any external enemy ever could. The chosen one is not exempt from the initiation. They go through the deepest version of it. Because the work they are being prepared for requires a depth of character, a breadth of compassion, a resilience of spirit that can only be forged in the most intense fires. You cannot lead people through darkness you have never visited. You cannot speak to suffering you have never felt. You cannot hold space for a depth of human experience that you have only read about in books. The chosen one must live what they will later illuminate. They must walk into the places they will later guide others out of. They must know, from the inside, from the bones, from the marrow, what it costs to be human in the fullest, most excruciating sense of the word. That is not punishment, that is preparation. And the distinction between those two things is everything. Chapter 8. When the universe goes silent. Let us talk about the silence, because every chosen one encounters it, and very few are prepared for how absolute it is. There comes a point on the chosen path where the signs stop coming, where the synchronicities dry up, where the sense of divine guidance that has been your invisible companion on this journey simply disappears. And you are left in a silence so complete and so cold that it feels like abandonment, like the universe has moved on to someone else. Like you were a phase, an interesting experiment that didn't quite work out. This silence has a name in the mystical traditions. The Christian mystics called it the dark night of the soul. The Sufi poets encoded it in images of the beloved's absence. The Buddhist traditions spoke of the void. The shamanic traditions called it the spirit death. It is the moment when all external supports collapse and you are forced to discover whether your connection to your purpose is real. Truly, independently, unflinchingly real, or whether it was always dependent on the universe throwing you breadcrumbs to keep you moving. The silence is not abandonment, the silence is the final exam. It is the universe asking the deepest version of its central question. Do you know who you are when no one, not even the cosmos, is telling you? Can you hold the truth of your own calling in the absolute absence of confirmation? Can you keep walking when you cannot see the road? Cannot feel the guidance, cannot hear the voice that used to whisper your purpose back to you in the dark? If you can find that still, unshakable center inside yourself and stand in it even when the whole universe seems to have gone dark, then you have passed the test that the 50 years of training were designed to prepare others for and never quite could. But Chapter 9, The Return of the Light. And then, after the silence, after the dark night, after the void, after the spirit death, something happens. It is not dramatic, the way the movies would have you believe. It does not arrive as a bolt of lightning or an angelic visitation or a sudden explosion of light that erases all doubt and confusion forever. It arrives quietly, almost shyly, like a single candle flame appearing in the corner of a room that has been dark for a very long time. It might arrive as a thought you couldn't quite shake, a feeling in your chest that you don't have words for. A morning where you wake up and the weight that has been on your shoulders for months or years is simply lighter. A conversation where you say something and you can see in the other person's eyes that it landed somewhere real and true and necessary. A moment of ordinary beauty, sunlight on water, a child's laugh, the particular quality of silence after rain that somehow contains, without explanation, everything you needed to remember. The light returns. It always returns. Not because the universe is kind, though it is. Not because you've earned it, though you have. But because light is what happens when darkness has done its work completely. Because dawn is not a reward for surviving the night, it is simply what comes next. And when the light returns to the chosen one who has passed through the silence with their purpose intact, it is different from the light they carried before. It is no longer borrowed light, the light of other people's belief in them, the light of external validation and confirmation and sign. It is their own light, generated internally, requiring nothing outside itself to sustain it. And that self-generating, self-sustaining, internally sourced light is what they were always supposed to carry into the world. Chapter 10. The mission that was waiting. Now we can talk about the mission. Now that you understand what the journey cost and what it built in you. Now that you see why the training of others, 50 years of it, 100 years of it, could never have produced what you carry. The mission was waiting for you specifically, not a placeholder version of you. Not the you that you would have become if you had taken the comfortable road. Not the you that the people who loved you were comfortable with. The you that emerged from the fire. The you that survived the silence. The you that chose in the darkest moment of the dark night to keep going even when keeping going made no rational sense. That you, the one reading these words right now, the one who has been quietly certain for years that they were here for something bigger than what they could see, that you has a mission that is so precisely tailored to your particular combination of gifts and wounds and perspectives and experiences that it could not be given to anyone else. The world is not waiting for someone to do your mission adequately. The world is waiting for you to do it completely, fully, without apology, without shrinking, without the protective smallness that kept you safe while you were becoming who you needed to become. The people who trained for 50 years prepared the ground. They cleared the path as far as they could see. They built the understanding, the language, the context that will allow people to receive what you bring. But they could not bring it themselves. That was never their assignment. Their assignment was to get the world ready enough that when you walked in, carrying the thing they could not manufacture, the thing that only your particular life could produce, the world would have just enough capacity to receive it. Just enough, not more. Because some of what you carry will still be too far ahead. Some of what you bring will still not be understood for years or decades or generations. That is fine. Plant it anyway. Speak it anyway. Live it anyway. The seeds that fall on ground not yet ready are not wasted seeds. They are investment seeds. They are the inheritance of the future. Here is something extraordinary that happens when a chosen one finally steps fully into their purpose. The right people appear. Not the people they tried to network their way into. Not the people they pursued or performed for or tried to convince. The right people, the ones who were placed in the world specifically to encounter what this particular chosen one carries, they simply appear. As if a frequency that was always being broadcast but always being drowned out by the noise of smallness and fear suddenly comes through clearly. And those who were always tuned to that frequency, who have been searching for it without knowing what they were searching for, suddenly stop, turn their heads, follow the signal. The ancient texts describe this phenomenon in the language of destiny, that the teacher appears when the student is ready, but also that the student appears when the teacher is ready. Both sides of the encounter are prepared simultaneously by the same invisible intelligence and brought together at the precise moment when the exchange will be most transformative. The people who find you when you step into your fullness are not accidental. They are not coincidental. They are not simply people who happen to come across your work or your life. They are the ones for whom your life, your gifts, your particular way of illuminating truth was always meant. They recognize you with an immediacy that bypasses logic. They feel in your presence something that they cannot explain but cannot deny. They say things like, I don't know why, but I feel like I've been waiting for this. I feel like I've heard this before somewhere, but I can never find it anywhere else. I feel like you're saying something that I already knew but couldn't access until I heard you say it. This is the resonance of a chosen one meeting their people. This is what all of it was for. The training, the preparation, the suffering, the silence, the fire. It was all in service of this moment of recognition, when two souls who were placed on earth to find each other finally do. Chapter 12. The responsibility of being chosen. Let us be clear about something that the romanticization of the chosen one narrative tends to obscure. Being chosen is not a privilege that exempts you from responsibility. It is a responsibility so total, so all-encompassing, so demanding that it makes every other form of responsibility look manageable by comparison. You are responsible for the gifts you carry, not responsible in the sense of deserving credit for them. You didn't manufacture them, you were given them, and the giver could just as easily have given them to someone else. But responsible in the sense that you are the current steward of something that belongs not to you but to the world. The musician who refuses to play because they are afraid of judgment does not harm only themselves. They withhold something from every soul who needed to hear that music. The healer who retreats into safe obscurity because the vulnerability of truly serving others feels too dangerous does not protect only themselves. They leave a wound in the world that only they had the specific medicine for. The chosen one who decides that the cost of the mission is too high, who chooses instead the comfort and the quiet and the carefully managed smallness, commits a theft against the future. Not a malicious theft, an understandable one. A human one, but a theft nonetheless. And you reading this, you who have felt this calling for as long as you can remember and have been alternately running toward it and away from it for most of your life, you know this already. You have always known it. That is precisely what makes the moments of retreat so painful. Because you can feel, in the act of retreating, exactly what you are withholding. You know the cost of your absence. You have always known. And it is time. It is finally, completely, irreversibly time to let that knowledge be the thing that moves you forward instead of the thing that paralyzes you. Chapter 13. The Final Integration. There is a moment, and it comes differently for each chosen one, at a different point on the path, triggered by a different catalyst, when everything integrates. When the years of preparation stop feeling like suffering and start feeling like architecture. When the wounds reveal themselves as windows. When the isolation that felt like abandonment reveals itself as the sacred privacy required to build something that could not have been built in public. When the periods of darkness reveal themselves as the gestation periods of the light. This integration does not arrive as an insight. It arrives as a felt sense, a whole body, whole soul recognition that is closer to homecoming than to discovery. You didn't learn something new. You remembered something ancient. You remembered what you were before you were afraid. You remembered the agreement you made before you were born into this particular life, with the part of existence that places souls in the world with specific frequencies for specific purposes. You remembered that you came here on purpose, that nothing about your path, not the suffering, not the confusion, not the feeling of being fundamentally, irrevocably different from everyone around you, was accidental, that all of it was intentional, that all of it was yours, that all of it was, in the deepest possible sense, perfect, not comfortable, not easy, not what you would have chosen if you had been allowed to design your own curriculum, but perfect, perfectly calibrated to produce precisely the instrument, precisely the capacity, precisely the depth of character that your specific mission requires. The integration is the moment you stop fighting your story and start inhabiting it fully. The moment you stop apologizing for what you are and start being grateful for it. The moment the chosen one finally chooses themselves. Chapter 14. A message to the ones who aren't ready to hear this yet. Some of you reading this are not ready, and that is exactly right. The soul cannot receive what it hasn't yet been prepared to hold. And the preparation, as we have established, takes time, takes fire, takes silence and darkness and the particular alchemy of a life lived at the edge of one's understanding of oneself. If you are in the middle of the fire right now, if you are in the silence, in the dark night, in the place where nothing makes sense and the calling feels more like a curse than a gift, then this is not the chapter for you yet. This chapter is here. It will be here when you return to it. But right now, the only thing you need to know is this. Keep going. Not because it will be easy. Not because it will make sense soon. Not because someone can guarantee you that the fire has an end and the silence will break and the light will return. Keep going because you are already in it. Keep going because the thing that called you onto this path is real. More real than the fear, more real than the doubt, more real than the voices that are telling you to turn back. Keep going because somewhere in the world right now, there are people who are waiting for what only you can bring them. They don't know your name yet. They don't know what form the help will arrive in. But they are waiting. And they have been waiting for a long time. And they deserve the version of you that didn't quit. Chapter 15. The World That Waited. Let us end where we began, with the 50 years of training, with the ones who prepared and prepared and prepared, and were still not ready. The world trained for you, not for a generic version of what you represent, for you specifically. Your particular capacity for seeing what others miss. Your particular way of holding complexity without forcing it into false simplicity. Your particular combination of tenderness and strength, of vision and groundedness, of radical truth-telling and profound compassion. The world trained for all of it. The teachers trained. The traditions prepared. The suffering of generations before you built the container that would allow your gifts to be received. The ground was broken by the ones who came before. The seeds were planted by the ones who gave their lives to the work. The irrigation channels were dug by the dreamers and the mystics and the revolutionaries who saw something coming that they could not name. All of that was for this. All of those 50 years, every century of them, every lineage, every school, every tradition, every person who gave their entire life in service of something they could feel but never quite fully reach. It was all in preparation for this moment. Your moment. The moment the chosen one stops being a concept and becomes a life. Stops being a potential and becomes an actuality. Stops being a prophecy and becomes a presence. You are here. The preparation is complete. The world, which trained for 50 years and was still not ready, is as ready as it is going to get. And that is enough. It has always been enough. Step forward. Speak your truth. Live your mission. The ones who trained for 50 years are watching. And they are not disappointed that you exceeded them. They are relieved. This is what they always hoped would happen. This is what they gave everything for. You. Exactly this. Exactly now. Outro. You were always the one. There is one final truth that needs to be spoken before this ends, and it is the most important truth in everything that has been said here. You did not become the chosen one. You were always the chosen one. The journey was not the process of you becoming something you weren't. It was the process of you stripping away everything you are not, until what remained was undeniably, unquestionably, irreducibly you. The training you went through, the fire, the silence, the isolation, the pain, the beautiful and devastating encounters, the moments of grace that kept you